Good afternoon, everyone. For my part, I am happy to have the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this afternoon, sharing with you a journey that we have been on in the greater southern tier of New York on the topic of STEM education. Want to share with you the motivation for our work and the progress that we have made. I can tell you that the provocative question that's asked for this session about co-ownership between industry and academia as it concerns the education of engineers, I think that you'll find that we believe the answer is yes. I want to take a few minutes to share with you some realities with respect to the talent pipeline that we focused on when we were beginning this conversation, Corning Incorporated being the major employer in the upstate New York region where we are. It certainly was not lost on us the real need for understandings about the realities concerning science, technology, engineering, and math, especially as they pertain to our upstate New York region. But it wasn't enough to stop with an understanding and then be part of the finger-pointing game that often goes on. Whose fault is it that students aren't showing up career-ready or college-ready? We're all in this together. And so we decided to roll up our sleeves and figure out how to begin supporting change of the realities in the greater southern tier. These kinds of data are not lost on this crowd, I'm sure, but certainly points to the fact that as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, there was a significant opportunity for improving on performance with respect to STEM fields. If you look at this example, it really drives home the point of what the need is, especially for those coming from an industry perspective. If you have this cohort of 100 ninth graders and look at the fact that by the time they show up at college, that number has dwindled down to less than half. And then by the time we are 3 and 6 years out, a significant few have earned a degree in the associate's or bachelor's level. And that really indicates that there is a growing dilution or emptying of the pipeline. And this is for all majors, not just in STEM. Looking at the idea around technology being more and more prolific in our day and age, it is clear to us that more and more we're going to find the need for STEM capability not as an option but as an imperative. And anecdotally, we have gone to places like the Early College High School, PTech in Brooklyn. We've visited places like the STEM High School in San Diego, and the statistics, at least anecdotally, really do bear out the idea that STEM education is just an overall great education that really does impact more than just science and engineering. It also impacts ELA and even humanities. The National Association of Manufacturers had their study a few years ago and found that half of them felt that the shortage of a skilled workforce was really something that was significant. Even more felt that a strong manufacturing capability is a national priority. However, on the flip side, the reality is that there was a growing rate of decline in the numbers of folks graduating from programs in STEM areas. So that was a nice way for us to kind of dip our toe in the water, but then drilling it down further to our region, thinking about the 9-county area that makes up the southern tier as far as the Department of Labor is concerned, it was striking that in their study that focused on the period of time from 2002 to 2012, that 8 of the top 10 fastest growing jobs in our area were going to require a background in STEM. They redid this study a few years later, and it now encapsulates the time period that we're actually living in, and found that it continued to be the same case. So again, for a company like Corning and for companies in the southern tier, and I would say companies around the country, this is a growing reality. Even more to home, looking at data that we collected again in the 2010 timeframe, if someone like Corning were looking to hire folks into entry-level manufacturing positions, it's necessary for them to take an entrance exam. The math and science on these exams are at the 6th and 7th grade level, and we still found that half of the folks that were taking these tests were failing. Couple that with the realities around science and math mastery in our region, the remediation statistics for math in our area, as well as the fact that we are finding it is difficult to fill positions that have a need for a STEM background at a time when we are still experiencing in our nation above 7% unemployment. So what did we do to start thinking about how we could affect change to these realities? We found ourselves faced with kind of this continuum, if you will, looking all the way from pre-K all the way through college and career, this idea of a backwash of partnerships such that at every stage of a child's education and development, there was this informing with math, science, and technology, but a backwash, if you will, of information such that by working together, folks from the college and trade school area and even business and industry inform middle school and high school, inform elementary school, and so as a coalition, we are all aware of what the needs are as they are changing both from industry and academia so that our bar continues to be raised for students in our area. And so we formed a coalition, and even though STEM wasn't so in vogue back then, we've adopted and kept the name MST, it's still STEM, and the vision, mission, and purpose are captured here. But the idea really is that science, technology, engineering, and math are critical to lifelong learning. And therefore, if we want our region to be a benchmark, to be the place of choice for skills that are marketable in STEM as well as high interest in the area, there were some things that we had to focus on. And so we came together in the fall of 2009 and had folks from business and industry, folks from roundtables, private programs with the Math Science Technology Connect Coalition kind of as the forum, and began to have the conversation about what would a model for enhanced STEM education in the greater southern tier look like. And so, with our mission and goals in place, we began to think about what the future state design aspects would be. And you can see that there were 4 that we settled on: resource and asset flexibility, instructional application, alternate routes to K-12 completion, and teacher and administrator preparation and development. We also are not fooling ourselves about barriers like cost, regional policies and practices and contracts, and the same thing at the state level. But putting that all together after 1,200 plus volunteer hours with 60 plus subject matter experts, we came up with a Plan B. Plan B said no matter what it took, if we were serious about raising the bar on STEM for students in the greater southern tier, we would have to figure out a way to get it done. And so starting with that as the idea, we had hoped that we'd be able to deliver on a pilot to a handful of districts in our 21 district region, and we found ourselves with a very high level problem in that almost day one we had school districts signing up to be part of this initiative, such that at the end of the pilot period we are now reaching, as you'll see later on in this presentation, over 10,000 students in our area, and we have 14 of the 21 districts participating in this effort. Our deployment model was kind of this layered framework, if you will, starting with the embedding of a pilot that focused on inquiry-based programs of study that would allow us then to launch and connect school programs, leading to the development of an innovation infrastructure that would, at the end of the pilot, result in a management structure that had non-negotiable parameters that allowed there to be a high level of fidelity of implementation. The expected outcomes are certainly ones that would make sense anywhere. Significant increase in the numbers of STEM-capable high school graduates, implementation of programs that reduce gaps and enhance 21st century mastery, and implementation of a support network that not only has students' interests in mind, but leverages resources that allow there to be support for professional development for instructors, as well as communications that lead to higher advocacy amongst parents and other resources in the community. First year always is the doozy. You find a whole lot of stuff that needs to be done in order for people to feel like, yep, this is something that we want to continue doing. And so we had a lot of ideas that we wanted to execute, and we found that critical to every one of them was having a dedicated resource for the region. It didn't work if we just put it out there to the school districts, asked our partner companies to support. There had to be someone whose job it was to keep their eye on the ball. And so we hired a regional STEM coordinator, and I'll tell you how we were able to accomplish that. And that one has turned into 7 3 years later, because this is what really allows the train to keep moving down the track without derailing. Our approach initially was to focus on 3rd and 6th grade, leveraging the full option science system as an inquiry-based learning approach. And at high school, looking at the design and delivery of a STEM elective that really allowed there to be an interdisciplinary exchange for STEM beyond tradition. So it wasn't just a matter of looking at those who were doing AP or IB, physics, chemistry, biology, but what about folks who had a real artistic side but wanted to understand the marriage between that and STEM? Today, we have districts that are full K-8 coverage as well as high school, and all of them that are involved are moving in that direction. We had 3 districts initially, as you saw in the plan. That was our hope. And now we are at 14 plus a private school. That's more than 50% of the districts in our area. More than 11,000 students now being affected, and providing professional development to over 500 teachers this year. We've already done work with our third-party evaluator that showed 5 times as much as a 5-fold increase in teacher effectiveness, as well as much as a 12% improvement on standardized tests for both science as well as math and ELA. This plan continues to be supported broadly because it's reflective of that Plan B work that we did back in 2010. It significantly advances STEM education in the Greater Southern Tier, and it enables the institutionalizing of practice. There were no new monies that school districts had to find other than the money for the STEM coordinator, and Corning was actually able to provide seed for that the districts were able to receive aid on in following years to keep that investment going. We also are happy that we are part of the pathway towards progress in New York State. We've contributed to the Race to the Top, as well as we are continuing to be leading the way with respect to how the work in the Common Core, next generation science standards, as well as the marriage with the New York State science standards is playing out. Key partners, MST Connect, as well as the marriage that we have with the Greater Southern Tier BOCES has been key. And then our third-party evaluator, so that we are not just drinking our own Kool-Aid, if you will, has really been critical, and Syracuse University has provided that service. So in the end, we think that it's all about design to enhance learning for our kids, and STEM as a focus really is turning out to be a way to continue to see the bar raised. And so co-ownership, co-responsibility, partnership is key because of the fact that it really does affect how it is that we are able to be innovation leaders at places like Corning Incorporated. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.